Greetings. As you know, my name is Mandy Robinson Young, and I'm a psychologist and an eco-psychologist. As a psychologist, I love taking a journey with people, um, just to help them gain insight, have emotional support, and use certain techniques to develop mental strength. And as an eco-psychologist, which is my real passion, I've spent a lot of time observing wild animals with social behavior. It's been the wild dogs, elephants, meerkats, white lions, mountain gorillas, swimming with dolphins, and talking with the Maasai and the Bushmen. So the value of that for me has been learning that good mental health and environmental sustainability go hand in hand. In other words, healing ourselves and healing the world is very interdependent. So today, I'd like to take you on a virtual online safari, and our wild animals we're going to be having a look at is the badgers, honey badgers, and we're going to look at the theme of resilience. So what we normally do in these webinars is to watch the video, just jot down any thoughts or insights, questions, just anything. There's no right or wrong as you're watching the video, and we just have a discussion afterwards and try and gain some personal and professional insights from observing the honey badgers on resilience. So joining me tonight is Claire. She's been a colleague who's popped in and out of webinars for a couple of years now, so it's lovely to see you again, Claire. And Claire is a writer, but not doing much writing at the moment because she had a really sad circumstance of falling and breaking her wrist. So really happy to have you on board, Claire. I'm going to just launch into the video now, and we'll chat again afterwards.
If you aren't brushed on their ferocious reputation, be ready to fall for this innocent-looking little animal with its cute bushy
Claire,
tail.
can you hear
They sure
everything
look
and
cuddly,
see everything?
but don't let this facade fool you into tempting their fighting
brilliant.
spirit. With videos of honey badgers attacking lions, popularly known as kings of the jungle for a reason, and casually taking down a 3-meter python to the endless honey badger don't care memes, you don't want to test your luck, especially when you find out about their favorite part to attack and dismember first on their preys. But in all seriousness, do honey badgers deserve their reputation as the most fearless animal in the world? And the even more important question, are honey badgers really immortal? Honey badgers truly just don't care. After the famous National Geographic honey badger video with Randall's hilarious commentary went viral, the internet didn't hold back in painting honey badgers in the worst possible light. The video literally shows the honey badger waking up from a cobra bite, brushes it off, and goes on its merry way without batting an eye. Leaving aside the trendy video that kind of turned the honey badger into a cultural icon, science does confirm that honey badger casually forgoes any concerns of bee stings and cobra bites, all for just a snack. Honey badgers didn't gain their reputation just from their impeccable hunting skills or the ability to chew a snake like an afternoon snack. There are many other wild animals with better hunting skills. Honey badger's incredible immunity to the world's deadliest bites have even gotten scientists intrigued to sequence its DNA in the hopes for a stronger, more effective anti-venom for humans. Turns out, a certain mutation is responsible for a honey badger's venom resistance. This mutation didn't naturally occur in just honey badgers, but also in 3 other animals. These are mongooses, hedgehogs, and pigs. Prior to this experience, pigs were assumed to survive snake bites because of their thick skin. So not only a cultural icon, but also a possible savior and a muse to scientists. What more could you ask for? Well, when it comes to honey badger, the surprises don't stop here, because they bite back. Badgers don't just survive bee stings, snake bites, and lion attacks, but they also bite back. I mean, offense is the best defense, right? Well, the puffer adder doesn't agree. This indigenous snake of Africa has a venomous bite that can cause your flesh to instantly melt off. This sounds scary to you, but is it enough to place fear into the heart of the planet's most fearless animal? Well, no. Honey badgers regularly hunt, kill, and bite this animal's head off for a Tuesday lunch, and sometimes just for fun. Sounds like a show-off to me. But they actually have a very good reason for targeting venomous snakes. Talk about less competition. There are not many wild animals that enjoy their food extra poisonous. It's basically like being the only one at the party who can eat the extra spicy buffalo wings. But before you start eating super hot chili peppers, you must build a tolerance. This is exactly what a baby badger has to do for venom. The mama badger starts regulating cubs' exposure, usually starting with mild stingers. During cubs' journey in becoming more tolerant to stingy bites, scorpions are collateral damage. They're the perfect training wheel because their sting is bad enough to build up tolerance, but it isn't a cobra bite. In National Geographic's venom vaccine video, you can see a baby badger brushing off 2 direct stings on the nose and goes directly after its opponent's only weapon, its tail, to dismantle. Hunting poison.
Say goodbye to old costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access to your favorite channel.
Poisonous insects and snakes is not only good for making a venom vaccine, but they're also great sources of meat. Snakes actually make up more than 20% of badgers' diet, but the honey badger doesn't care about that. Their hobby doesn't stem from desperation, but snakes are actually considered easy targets for badgers. They're easier to catch, especially when their main defense is rendered useless against badgers' immunity and thick skin. Talking about rough skin, have you heard that honey badgers are almost bulletproof? While the media definitely played a role in exaggerating badgers' invincibility to the extent of calling them bulletproof, there is no smoke without fire.
Are honey badgers bulletproof? Oh my God, run!
The truth is, evolution has blessed badgers with a skin that is extremely thick. It can withstand multiple machete blows, arrows, and even spears. Surviving bullets doesn't seem much of an exaggeration now, does it? In this book by Donovan Reservoir, the author claims that badgers can only be killed with a club or a direct shot to the head.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because I think we've got enough information. I know it's kind of you seeing it for the first time, and I've watched it a couple of times. So with your permission, Claire, unless you have something really interesting or very urgent and inspiring you would like to share, I thought I'd just introduce a couple of topics. Would you be okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. So the first thing I kind of picked up on, I was wondering, and the question I was wondering about is what makes the honey badgers fearless? You know, to take on lions, 3-meter-long pythons, you know, animals that are way bigger than they are. I wondered if you had any thoughts about that.
I think it's partly survival.
Okay. So they don't the deep need inside of them to survive just overcomes any fear about how they're going to survive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess their personality too.
Yeah, I like that, their kind of attitude about things.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to come to that a bit later. One of the things I was thinking about is that they know their resources quite well. So
Mm-hmm.
I know the video doesn't mention all their assets, so I'll mention a couple of them. So the video did mention they have this very, very thick skin, but later on in the video it just goes on a bit. So it mentions that skin is incredibly loose around their body, which means that they can spontaneously swivel. So a lion, for example, might have a honey badger in its mouth, And that honey badger can swivel around and bite the lion on its nose, which will then, the lion's likely to release it. So it has this incredible ability to swivel, other than having this very impenetrable skin. But obviously it also has these incredible claws. And then, as we've kind of seen a little bit in the video, it has this immunity to snake bites and a lot of the venomous animals, birds, insects that it kind of goes for. The other one that came up in the video, which is that they can make quite a stink. So they can let off a stink, and that enabled them to kind of be able to attack a beehive. So the bees all vacated as soon as they smelt whatever the badger exuded. So it has quite a lot of its resources. And I was thinking in terms of resilience, that one of the things that really helps us to be resilient is to know who we are, to know what our strengths are, and to remember them. I think often when we're in a challenging time, or when circumstances are not going our way, we tend to forget our strengths. We kind of engage a lot more in our weaknesses and in our unhappiness. And I think is when we begin to remember our strengths, that kind of pulls us up a little bit. Yeah. So there's not a lot more I had to say on that kind of question. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Claire?
No, I picked up on the thick-skinned as well, but I didn't know about the swiveling. But
Yeah, no, it's kind of amazing how adaptable they are. I remember being in the bush in Mana Pools with a game guide friend of mine, and we were having supper on the edge of the Zambezi River. It was amazing. It was a beautiful evening. And he suddenly stood up, and something kind of like brushed past my leg. He suddenly stood up, and it was a honey badger. And they look so cute, and this little honey badger stood up on its back legs and kind of growled at him. And he just kept his stance. And the honey badger eventually decided to go down and wriggle off. But he looked really terrified. And I said, "Why are you so scared of this cute little creature?" Then he kind of mentioned all the things about the honey badger. And I thought, wow, that was really brave to stand up to it. Okay. So the next question I was thinking about is, why is the first thing they dismember is the aspect of their enemy or challenge that can do the most harm? So we saw it dismembering the head of the snake. We saw the little baby honey badgers kind of getting bitten and then dismembering the tail of the scorpion. And I just wondered about the value of that. And I guess in terms of resilience, I was kind of asking myself, really, what are the challenges that we have to bite the head off? Sometimes the head might be how we're feeling about the challenge. It might be how we want to respond to the circumstance. Sometimes it might be just getting to the root of what it is of why we're feeling. So, for example, somebody might be made redundant. And one person might think, oh, thank goodness. Another person might think, oh, my goodness, how am I going to survive financially? Another person might feel so rejected and inadequate, and very much doubting themselves. So we can often have very different feelings and reactions to the same circumstance. And always remember this statement, E plus R equals O. And that stands for event plus response equals outcome. So sometimes we have to bite the head off what we're feeling sometimes to be able to you know, I suppose, for example, if we look at that, the little honey badger, although he got bitten by the snake and you see him like conked out on its back, it's not that we don't feel what's happening to us, we do. But he got up and he kept going. He got up and he kept going. And what is it that makes us resilient enough to, even though we have a real knock, what is it that makes us resilient enough to keep on going, basically? Just wondered if you had any thoughts about that.
Mm. Not particularly, I have to say.
Which
One of the things that came up was tolerance. I don't know if tolerance has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I think tolerance is pretty important. I think tolerance shows resilience.
Yeah.
Because I think even a little bit further on, I was going to ask that, you know, does resilience just happen, or does it grow with a certain level of tolerance?
Yeah, I would say it grows with tolerance.
Yeah, I think I would agree, because we see with the little honey badger and the mom, you know, the little honey badger. So I think we usually grow through pain, not through pleasure,
Yes.
unfortunately. And when we have pain or a sense of failure or things don't go right, and we manage to pick ourselves up and keep going, it creates a tolerance, it creates a sense of hope, it creates a sense of, well, I've done this once before, I know I can do it again. I've turned this round once before, I know I can turn it around again. And it stood out for me that the little pup wasn't given pain beyond what it could tolerate.
Yeah.
It was given just enough to build up some resilience.
Yes.
And I think it's the same with us. You know, we don't need something so overwhelming, we just collapse. But the little bits of pain and hardship in our life are important in terms of creating that resilience. And if we're honest, none of us can avoid that. None of us can avoid pain. None of us can avoid change. None of us can avoid failures. You know, it's just kind of a part of life, really. For example, none of us could avoid COVID. Everybody, you know. Yeah, I think that is important. I think tolerance, growing resilience through tolerance is just really, really important. Yeah. The other thing that stood out for me is it said that the little honey badger bit back and then mentioned that the best form of defense is offense. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that in terms of building resilience.
What the best? Sorry, I missed what you said about the best form of defense is what?
Offense.
Offense. Yeah.
The honey badger that's seen with the lions didn't just run away; it bit back.
Yeah, that's sort of. I suppose it depends on the personality, but certainly the personality of the honey badger is aggressive. You know, it is, you know, in for the attack, and will stand up to the lions and everything else. So from that point of view, that makes sense. You know, whereas some people might not want to, you know, they might not want to, you know, they don't have that sort of aggressive stance. They're more passive, and so maybe passivity doesn't help resilience. I don't know.
It's a good question. I think fighting back can take lots of different forms when we think about what that could mean personally or professionally. I think for the little honey badger, they're small, so they have to bite back. If
Yeah,
they
yeah.
ran away, they're not fast, they're not big. You
Mhm.
know, if they ran away, they'd get eaten. You know,
Yeah, yeah. So
they,
it's a form of survival,
they have,
isn't it?
it is. They have to bite back. But I think biting back in our personal and professional lives can be things like setting limits, like saying to really, you know, we started off with one of the very important parts of resilience is really knowing who you are,
Mm.
what you like, what you don't like, your strengths, your weaknesses. So I think fighting back can sometimes be saying no instead of saying yes.
Mhm.
Sometimes biting back might be saying to somebody they can get this close, but not any closer.
Mhm.
Or it might be considering our own well-being as well as other people's well-being. So I think biting back can also be around putting up boundaries
Yeah, yeah.
to protect ourselves.
Mhm.
Would you agree?
Yeah, boundaries don't sound aggressive.
No, and I think it's something we all need to do. You know, I think it's something we all get a bit lost with sometimes when we have a new situation or things are changing. It's
Mhm.
not always easy to know where your boundary is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And again, we go back to that you learn resilience through step-by-step tolerance. You know,
Mhm.
we don't put a boundary in the right place, and then the consequence means that we experience some pain. Then we realize, oh, I should have put a boundary.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Something like that. So
yeah.
I think biting back can be putting in boundaries as well as, you know, just a ferocious response. You know, sometimes it is a ferocious response, might be advocating for a cause, or it might be standing up for yourself if somebody's being very bullying.
Yeah,
You know, that can also be kind of biting back,
yes.
builds resilience. Um, I think what also sort of stood out for me a little bit is also goes back to knowing yourself, that they really know themselves. They know what their capabilities are, and that if a snake bites them, they're going to be okay, or if they can swivel around and get themselves out of trouble. Um, but I think it's that makes it them gives them the power to take on powerful for them powerful enemies. But for us, knowing those inner strengths and where we can go within ourselves can also give us the power to have important passions and intention. There's quite an important book that I've read recently by um, I can't remember her first name. I think her second name was Urbanian. It's called Unbound. And the principles were, and I think this really does apply to resilience. You have to really go deep down inside of yourself. And when you go deep down inside of yourself and you realize what's okay and what's not okay, and what's really, really important to you, that inner knowing, that inner intent is very powerful. And I think that really builds a resilience that will then propel you forward into a really passionate direction. And I think one of the things they say with resilience, that one of the skills that people can draw on is to have a clear purpose.
Yeah.
And when you, there's somebody who's just arrived, I'll just admit them.
Oh, hooray.
You're a little bit off the hook, Claire. I'm not sure if they're going to, oh, there they are. Hello. You're on mute, but we'd love to say hello. Oh, hi. Is that
This is Collins. How are you?
Oh, hi, Colleen. So it's lovely. I'm very good. Nice that you could join us. I know that you're a very busy person, so having a few minutes with you is great. We have Claire on the line here as well. Claire is a writer. As you can see, Colleen is with the Youth Initiative Development Program, so does some very important work. We're kind of halfway through, Colleen, with some of our exploration of resilience, but there are a couple of questions you might like to join in towards the end. We have watched the video about the honey badger. The things we've covered so far is some of the things that we can learn from the honey badger about resilience is that they really know who they are, which gives them some inner strength and attitude, I guess, to really take on big things. Might be for them big lions and 3-foot long pythons. For us, it might be big projects. We've also talked about pain rather than pleasure usually grows resilience, but it grows a little step by step, and as we grow in tolerance of the tough things that we're going through, then we build up resilience. So the question that we're on now is, does resistance wane when we're wasting time on things that don't really matter? Do either of you have some thoughts about that?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said.
Does resilience wane? Does it get less when we're wasting time on things that don't really matter? So, for example, what stood out for me with the honey badgers is that they spend time and energy on capturing the snakes, even though that could be a painful experience for them, because the snake had a high percentage of protein, or it was a good resource for them for survival. So it made me ask the question, how much time do we lose a sense of resilience when we are just reacting to things? We're not prioritizing things, we're wasting energy on things that might have less importance for what we're trying to achieve. Just wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
It goes back to what you said about a clear purpose, and I'm sure that's helpful if you have got a clear purpose, because I think if you haven't, then inevitably your energy gets watered down.
Sure. Yeah. And again, I think having a clear purpose goes back to knowing yourself, knowing your inner passions, knowing what is of real value to you. And sometimes I think what circumstances that are challenging do for us is it gives us a time to reevaluate what is really important. For example, when I am old and I look back on my life, what do I want to have achieved? What do I want to say to myself, well done for? Am I just in a job where I'm doing things that don't really matter to me because I need the finance? Or am I really living my life with following what really matters to me and hoping that the finance will come? So it gives us time to ask those kind of questions, I think. The last sort of question that I have is, it just stood out for me, I suppose, because of the course I've just been doing. It says that it's really almost impossible to kill honey badgers unless you knock them on the head. And I was thinking for us in terms of resilience, that our head, our brains, are the main place where we can get knocked down, how we perceive things, how we deal with things as either a gift or an opportunity, or we see it as something very stressful, and our bodies get full of cortisol and we shut down and we get depressed and we disconnect from ourselves. We kind of isolate ourselves from other people. And I think it's also important when considering resilience that when you do have a challenging time, you do hang out with people that matter to you, people who can listen, people who are positive, not people who kind of have that kind of attitude, oh, well, I told you so kind of thing, but people who really build you up. So keeping that connection with other people is really important, people who motivate you. But yeah, I think, you know, as I was sharing with Claire a little bit earlier on before we started, we were kind of born to connect. And there are things that happen, especially early on in our lives, or when they happen early on in our lives, that really disconnect us either from ourselves or from very important caretakers, and our brains adapt to survive that kind of disconnection or that trauma. But the way that our brain survives creates a way of thinking and being that isn't always helpful later on in life. So we need to build new neural pathways. So I think part of developing resilience is making sure we don't get knocked on the head, or metaphorically. And metaphorically, I mean we take time to create new ways, new perspectives of doing things, because I think resilience, the people who bounce back and who are resilient are able to be adaptive, they're able to problem solve, they're able to gain a new perspective out of the challenging circumstances, able to connect with others, recognize their resources, feel strong, you know, instead of doubting themselves. Maybe even just write down all your strengths and put it on the mirror or the fridge door or something, and just remind yourself of just your value, you know, in challenging times is really important. So I'm very thankful to the honey badgers and to all the wildlife and tribal people and dolphins who always teach me so much. Very thankful to them. Very thankful, Collins and Claire, for joining in with me tonight. I'm not sure if you have any parting words you would like to share with anybody who listens into this webinar that would maybe help. So there's another lady who's just arriving as we end.
Do you want to let them?
Hi. Okay, go ahead.
No, Collins, you go ahead. Hi, Yvonne.
All right, thank you so much, Mandy. I was just trying to follow up and also try to digest and how you bring in the perspective of feeling and resilience. And again, I connect it even because if you are so resilient, and also you are able to identify your purpose, which is most important, because once you have identified your purpose, then you'll have you'll be able to identify or contain both negative and positive feelings that you may have. But now, how you face them, how you face the negativity, the negative feeling is the most important. And also it contributes to how you cope up with a bit of maybe the challenges that may come your way. and that will contribute to your mental well-being. You know, when you are talking, I was trying to connect it, and again, being a mental health advocate, it really resonates with what we normally talk about and how we can help young people to be resilient and how we can help them to cope with a bit of pressure that may arise in their day-to-day life, both in school and outside school. And now we are now instilling a bit of some tactful way on how they can use a bit of breathing styles to help them overcome some of the stresses that they may face in their day-to-day life. So within the shortest time, I was listening. I'm telling you, it's an eye opener, and you have really done well. And thank you for what you have contributed right now. I know I was late, but I thank you for everything. Thank you so much, and looking forward to joining most of your sessions, because I was trying to look wilderness, encounter Africa. So I thought it would be more of talking about lions and leopard and a bit. Yeah. That was all what was in my mind. But now, when relating with what you are saying, it really conforms with me. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I believe I'll be more. I'll appreciate if you invite me in more of your webinars. It's really
Thank you,
important.
Collins.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for your very important words as we kind of ending off, just of how important it is to have a purpose. Because I think having that purpose, I agree with you, is if we have a purpose that we're so passionate about, we burn all the bridges and we just go for it and nothing stops us, because it's just so important to us and so important to other people that no one else can do what we can do. And to empower young people to think the same way is really fantastic. And as you say, to give them a little bit of resilience for the tough times at school, the tough times that they're going through. You know, I think they need some extra resilience too, with all the things they see on social media that can pull them down. It's quite a different and challenging world for young people these days. So very much looking forward to hearing more of your wisdom, and keep up all the amazing work that you're doing with the young people. Yvonne, I noticed.
Thank you so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Yvonne, I noticed you've just joined us, but we're about to say goodbye to each other. I would like to encourage you both to maybe listen into the video, because I have recorded it. I think it's what I find when you there's so many amazing life lessons that we learn from wild animals, because they just in my kind of way, I coined a word. They live in their God-created species specific ways, because they do that instinctively. Whereas we have a choice about how we live. So we learn so much that's just very pristine and clear from the ways in which they relate, that reminds us as humans about how we can relate as well. So I'd love to encourage you to listen into the video so that you can actually see the honey badgers in action and some of the things Claire and I have discussed. I'm really sorry that you're coming in at the end. But thanks for joining.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm still involved to a very small degree with politicians, and they don't know how to shut up, and they don't understand time. And yeah, so it was, I wanted to also just check with you, what time the meeting, how often is this meeting or webinar?
So we meet every Wednesday,
Okay.
6 o'clock in the evening UK time. So South Africa, that's 7 o'clock. I think Kenya and other Eastern countries, it's 8 o'clock. Yeah, but it's...
That's fine, because then I'll just put it in my diary now so that I've got it. You said, so you started, if you're about to end and it was an hour, so you started at 7 o'clock for South Africa then?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. So I'll put it in my diary. Thank you so much, Mandy, for finding me.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've spoken to you.
Yeah,
You
we
haven't
spoken to
aged
each
at
other.
all.
Oh, thank
And
you.
you still have such a radiant smile. I always loved that about you, and you still have that radiant smile. I've been up for a couple of hours. So sorry, I look a bit of a mess, but I'll be up all night. I've got to finish assignments for varsity. My semester ends tomorrow morning. So yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, and I will see you all next week.
Fantastic. Look forward to
Yeah,
you.
talking about having
Looking forward to-
resilience, I feel like I don't know what animal I am, but I feel like I'm very resilient. 69 years old, and I'm doing my degree. So yeah, I'll have my TEFL degree by the end of June, and then I'll be going on for my associate degree.
Well, you know, both of you can listen into the video, get
I
some of
will.
what you said, and then let me know your thoughts, because I do give a feedback from the
Okay.
video and share that with everybody else. So if
Okay.
any of you have any thoughts that you'd like for me to include in my feedback, that goes on my website, goes to lots of groups on LinkedIn. So please share your thoughts and feelings. Would be very valuable for lots of other people.
Where do we share it to? Will you give us the link?
Share it with me on LinkedIn, on the messenger system on LinkedIn. That'll be great.
I need to tell you, I don't use LinkedIn often enough, so I'll just find you and I'll write. I will only watch the video tomorrow, though. I have to hand in all my assignments.
As long as you let me know
watch it tomorrow.
by Friday or
no, that's fine.
By Monday. By Monday is fine.
Okay, great. Will do. Thanks again very much. Nice to see everybody. I see somebody else sitting there. Thank you.
Bye, Claire. Bye, Collins.
Bye, Mandy.
Bye.
Bye.